Hello everyone, welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton at fmtrain.tv, where we've had slightly too much caffeine, but that's good. We're here to have an awesome day of inspiring training, teaching, learning, winning, failing together. It's a big group exercise every day, 1 o'clock Pacific time. If you want to know what we're up to, check out fmtrain.tv. In fact, let me just do that. I'm going to have a little button here with my super amazing control box. 1, 2, 3, press button. Up comes the upcoming live stream broadcast. Aha! So today is, the next week's going to be exciting. So we got primary foreign keys. Today is a beginner question day. The FileMaker platform, what we're doing today, we're talking about primary keys, foreign keys. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring Calvin in here. Kyle, you can hold on the outer orbit in the event. If Kyle dies, you swoop in and take over for him, okay? So a lot of times we do some advanced crazy stuff. Tomorrow's way off the hook different, about the strategery of, a new engine in FileMaker and stuff like that. Today is like basic relational 101 stuff. So let's talk about it because I know people have questions. Let's bring up a table listing here of FileMaker. So we're going to go to File, Manage Database. We're going to bring up our tables. These are the entities we've decided that are important with this solution. What is an entity? Let's take Larry, one of our Marine Corps guys. He does baseball. Is it minor league baseball or major league baseball? I'm not sure. I think it might be minors. I don't think it's major. But he's involved with a database that manages the baseball games, box seats, all this kind of stuff. And so what are the entities? What are the things he has to track? You have the baseball game. You have the box seats. You have the people that sing the national anthem or whatever they do, okay? You have all the components that go into a baseball game. You have probably the umpires, the judges, the referees, whatever you want to call them, the little guys that run around. And when they make a call, they blow the whistle or whatever they do, and they rule that the game is going a certain way. If someone gets out of hand, they throw them out of the game. So basically the same as any other sport. And so you have to come up with the entities of things you want to track. So in a baseball game, you have the game, and then now it's not just one game. There's actually 72 games a year from Larry, right? So you have 72 records per year. So you have a game table, right? It would say game up here. And then you'd have 72 records. And then you have to connect that. So what is the unique identifier, a unique identifier for each record, right? What is unique? Like if we said we have a contact database and we want to identify everyone uniquely, you could say, well, their first name and last name should be unique, right? That's the first thing that people do when they're brand new developers. First and last name are unique, except that then I've actually had 2 Steve Allens and 2 Nathan Allens work in my company at one time. They had different middle names. So then you go, well, if I do first name, middle name, and last name, you combine them together, that creates the primary key. Most of the time, except it's still not a great solution. So some people say, how about a phone number? Except someone's phone number might change, right? How many times have people changed their phone numbers, right? And then you could lose that connection, right? So you have to find something that uniquely identifies them. For training purposes, I like to use serial numbers. Start at the number 1000 or 1 or whatever you want to do, and the next record is 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't have any special meaning, but the primary keys never overlap. There's no duplicates. That makes sense? So every record you create is a brand new serial number. What I want to do is kind of go to a database. Let's take a look at contacts in FM Starting Point. And let's take a look at the ID contact right there is a serial number. Now we are using a serial number in here. Go and zoom in. We use a serial number right here, and I'm going to zoom on this. It's really hard to see. We use a serial number here for training purposes. It's easier to understand relationship. Like if you see a 02 this over here, and you see that same number over here, it's easier in your mind to kind of understand that that's a matching number. As a more advanced developer, you get into a situation where people want to use randomly generated 32-digit ID numbers, which are basically what we call a UUID, right? And so this is what we use for training. There are some benefits to using a randomly generated UUID number. You want to show, if you were going to do that, Calvin, you change it to what? A calculation, and then you come up here and you would use that right there. And actually, you'd probably get UUID, use the number 1, right? So go ahead and change that to the other function. It's actually marginally faster. That is what you're going to want to use right there. Okay, makes sense? So This is the unique ID. So you basically, from a junior level, if you're trying to learn FileMaker, if you're new to the platform, you're going to want to think about using a serial number to keep it simple. And then you're going to use UUIDs as a more advanced developer. When you start doing synchronization, and if you have someone offline use an iPad and then you synchronize back, there's reasons you're going to want to do that. Okay. Whoa. So yeah, I got noise in the background for Calvin. Poor Calvin. Are you at home today, Calvin? Where are you at?
I am, yes.
Yeah, and your kids are about ready to go for their photo shoot. He has Christmas card photos coming up, right? He's going to suffer. 5 years old, 3 years old, and 1 year old. Your wife is probably losing her mind, right? So talk to us about this. So what is the primary key, Calvin? What's the difference between a primary key and a foreign key? You want to forget starting point, build a brand new file. Build a brand new file.
Yeah, we'll notice when we create a new file, and I'm just going to say create new, and this is going to be a blank one. I'm just going to say blank and say, call this test and put this on the desktop. And by default, it gives us a primary key, and we'll notice when we open it, it's using the get UUID. And so the primary key is what defines, well, what makes that record unique. Like Richard was saying, you could have two contacts with the same name. You could have two contacts that have other parts of their record information that are the same. But we have this primary key that will keep them unique. And then when we, one of the great things about FileMaker, or I guess the great thing about it, is that it's a relational database. So when we create related records, we relate them by that primary key, and in the related table, it's called a foreign key. So the primary key, there's only one primary key there should only be one primary key per record in that table, but then there can be many foreign keys because it can be related to many other different records.
So let's start off. Let's build it for Larry. Let's say we're going to build a brand new Major League Baseball game solution. So let's talk about the entity. So this is what FileMaker starts off as a blank. It's called test. So let's rename this one. Let's call it games, right? So we'll go to tables. We're going to create games. Larry, you want to help us out with the entities here a little bit? So we have games. What else are we going to have? We're going to have a box seating or boxes, right? That's where you have 5 or 10 seats in there, and you get a premium experience and a waiter and a chauffeur. You could have teams that you're going to play. You could have an announcer. You have to have an announcer, right? So we could get Josh Orman or someone in there to be an announcer, and then someone would maybe a singer, like if it was a football game, you'd have a halftime singer. In baseball, don't they do like a 7th inning stretch, and don't they have someone run around? Some sort of like little something that goes on.
I think someone in the beginning does the national anthem, but there's like a DJ or something that does the music and such for the 7th inning stretch.
Okay, so you also have birthdays. You have all sorts of stuff. So this is enough for now. So let's birthday for who? I don't know whose birthday that is. Just for a moment, let's just remove that one. I don't want to have to explain that to people. All right, so here is the thing. When you build FileMaker solution, FileMaker automatically defines these 5 fields. For me, it's kind of obnoxious, right? Because they call it primary key, which makes it, these things tend to sort kind of funny, right? So for the time, we'll just leave it right here, primary key. And also, what they also do is they use the UUID. So if you're an advanced developer, these settings are here, kind of what you'd almost want as an advanced developer. I want to change this to a serial number right here. So Calvin, let's go ahead and change that back to a serial number and keep it simple. To start them at like 1,000, right? 1,000 would be like the first one. There you go. Okay, and then go ahead and turn off all the other goofy things in here, right? So you could, because the more you turn this stuff on, the more performance you get hit on that. There's performance penalties potentially with that. So the indexing is fine. So go ahead and change. Don't worry about Japanese. That's fine. Hit OK there. Change the other tables as well. So change them all to serial numbers. Okay. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to have a layout. So we're going to be doing anchor buoy today, which is a way of designing the relational diagram. But we need a layout. So Calvin's doing this as quick as he can. You don't have to. Okay, stop. Auto header and validation is all you need, right? So you got that one. You got boxes. So we don't want that. And turn off the calc, please. Yep, great. And validation, yeah. So, because when you do unique validation, there is a performance hit on that. And most of the time, if you have a serial number, as a more advanced developer, once again, these settings are turned on by people who don't really build solutions at Claris. And so to me, they have issues. And then my job is to train and make things understandable. So the first thing I'm doing is making it much more understandable. I'm turning off, yes, the records all have to be unique, but if we're thoughtful and a good developer, we're never gonna have duplicates anyway. You could turn that on, but then every time you create a record, the system has to do a little bit of work to validate it's unique. It's an unnecessary, it's like a trap waiting for you. So let's talk about relationships. Well, back up. So we have all these tables, we have all these relationships, but nothing is there's no connections yet. So before we do this, let's let the layout drive this. So let's go to, so we hit OK, we're gonna save the changes. We're gonna build a layout. Can you close starting point for me? That would be great. So we need a layout that is going to list a game, right? So we want to edit the layout. First thing I'm going to normally do is get rid of the top nav on a data entry screen. We need some fields in here, so we're going to want to add fields. So we're going to create a new field. We have the date, very important, the date of the game, right? So we'll change it to a date field right here. Very good. We need probably the team that they're playing would be a local field. You'd probably want that locally searchable, and that's a text field, right? And so let's see. So then what else would we want to do? We'd want to be able to, well, let's just start with this. So put these on the layout. Let's build this out, okay? Yeah, we're not really doing the customers at the moment for that because there would be thousands of those. I guess you could.
We have the date and the team. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new record. And let's give this a date pop-up menu, or a drop-down calendar, I'm sorry. And we'll set this game for today. And the team, who do we want to have as
the Mighty Beavers. The Mighty Beavers. So they're gonna be playing. So this is obviously a hometown. So so go ahead and close this for a second. Let's rename this. Okay, go ahead and close the file, because what we want to do is, this is a system to track the home games for this team. So where'd the file go? Where's it actually at, Calvin? Do you know?
Iowa Cubs, apparently.
The Iowa Cubs. So go ahead and close the file, because we need to rename the file. So it's going to be Iowa, what do you call Iowa Cubs? Okay, go ahead. Game management is what I would call that. Game management. Okay, now go ahead and we renamed it. We double click it. We open it up. So now we understand that we're in the Iowa Cubs game management, where we have a game on 9/9 versus the Mighty Beavers, right? So now we need to see the box seats, right? So the issue is we have box seats. We actually have teams too. Go ahead and edit layout, but we have no way of really getting that on the screen because we need to be able to click here and see the relationships that we have. And we have these unrelated tables over here, right? They're unrelated, they're not connected yet. So we need to connect them. So let's go ahead and do that. So Calvin, you want to walk us through the logic of this here a little bit? So we're going to go to Manage Database. So you go File.
Yep, so File, Manage, Database.
Yep.
And we'll go ahead and open that up. And we're looking from the games. So what I'm going to do is create a new one. And we wanted to go to... we wanted to add
the boxes.
The boxes, that's what it was. And so it names it boxes 2 because we already have a boxes. But we want to have this related to the games. So I need to put a foreign key in the boxes called ID game. So I'm going to say ID game and create that. And now I can relate these. So I've got my primary key in games and my foreign key over in boxes.
Okay, so hang on. Go ahead and hold for a second. Hit OK, and let's drop back out to layout mode. And I want to, because I'm going to do this the way I did. I want to see this in a layout, and then I want to see another window, second window, with just the box, right? So pop, you were going to want to pop a new window, close that, make it narrow, right? Yep, there you go. Okay. So side by side, so we can see them side by side, narrow. Okay, there we go. There's a one. Here's the other one. Okay, it's going to be on the left. Okay, great. Now, the issue is I've set this up to visually, now real quick, Command-Shift-D, go back to relationships for me. So this right here is going to mimic what we have over on this other window. So it's a left box is this one, the right, this one over here. Now let's jump back over there real quick. So we've established a relationship between the two. We're going to talk about this. Show me put the ID, the primary key over here, put the primary key over here, because this is the critical part that we have to understand. Okay. So this is this one on this layout, and then on this one over here, the boxes. And what we also want to do is we'll add a field while we're here called the box number. So I think Larry said there were 20 some odd boxes, I think, right? So the box number, we'll start with a record. So the box number is, they have box 1. Just say 1A or something, right? So 1A. So there's box 1A, okay? Another new record, box 1B, okay? 1B, okay? Another new record, box 1C, okay? Now what I want you to do is go back to layout mode over here, Calvin, for me. And then by me having Calvin do it slows us down. Bring it up, make it a smaller one. We're going to view this as a list, okay? So it's fine. Just you have to go back to list. So on screen right here, we have one record right here. We can see that there are 3 records right here. So we're viewing this as a list. Over here, we're viewing this as a form, which means we only have one record on a screen at a time. So right now, we still haven't connected these two. We've laid the groundwork for this. So we have the primary key, which is always going to be unique. This game will always be 1002. This box over here will be 1001, right? This is 1002. This is 1003. These are the primary keys. But in order for a relationship, obviously, for this to work, somewhere you understand that with a relationship, the value here has to match a value over here. And you look at it and go, hey, look at this number right here. That tends to match. I lost the view over here. Calvin, can you come over here and refresh that? Where'd it go? Oh, there you go. Thank you. That 102 and that 102, those numbers match, right? So that's why a lot of times when I'm doing training, I might say this is a G over here for a game or something like that, and I know this is a B 102. They're not the same, right? Now, it could be a little confusing, but just understand that they're different. The primary key is unique here. It's unique here, so we need to have a foreign key, something that allows us to connect this record here to this record here. In order for that to happen, we have to have a foreign key, which we defined over here. So go ahead and go to layout mode. Let's put the foreign key on the screen. And so Calvin named it ID game is what he called it, because what we want to do is to establish a relationship. We want to take this value right here. We want to copy that value, and I want to stick it over, just do it in the middle one. So it's just, or yeah. Oh, okay. Just put it in the middle one. Okay, so now click out. If we click, we save it. Now it's saved. So now is a relationship here. There is a functional relationship between these two things. But how would you know? That's because we're not looking at anything. So over here, we would want to see, show me the, just without a portal, let's just start basic. Show me the box, the related boxes. Show me the related boxes. So let's so we're going to select right here. Now we see we have this relationship. It's functional here, remember? Right? So we had a primary key on one side, the foreign key on the other side. The primary key is on the parent side. The foreign key is on the child side. So you have the box number right here. Okay, so we go ahead and save it. So now you see that this data right here, so if I change the number, this is a live relational link. If I change this value right here on this side or this side, it's bidirectional. Go ahead and change it to, this is called, call it 1 Bravo, or 1 Bravo, just spell it out, Bravo, okay? And as soon as I click out, it updates. So once again, I'm going to change it again. So we're going to call it 1, put a different B, but don't click out. This is very important. Change it to something else, 2 B's or 1 B, right? Now notice over here it hasn't updated. You have to tab out and go to another record before it updates. And so now it instantly updates. So that is a live relational link. right? That brings up other issues that we could talk about on another day. So questions along the way, questions.
I don't see any in Twitch or YouTube.
Okay, so yeah, so Kyle is talking about DAPI, XML, all sorts of crazy stuff. So, so understand that in order to have a relationship here, we're going to have a primary key, right? And this is a game, and then these are things that help the game out. And really, this is a layout you wouldn't normally be looking at. But say I want to have, I want to see it all right here, but I want to also attach this box to this game too. So attach that box right there, 1C. So yeah, no, leave it. Go ahead and leave it. Go ahead and put it in there, 1002, because that's the game ID right here, right? Go ahead and click out. What happens? Nothing happens. Why did nothing happen? Right? Well, it's showing us when you put a related field, go to layout mode, and we'll take a look at the little dots over here. There's two little colons over here, right? Those are colons, I assume, right? So little dots right here, two doubles. That tells you it's a related data that doesn't belong to this table. This is the local table. This table belongs to games right here. You see that? And this is local to that. But these dots means it belongs somewhere else. Well, it technically belongs over here. I'm zoomed in, Calvin, so I'm screwing you up here. But yes, so the box is through this relationship over here, but it only shows us one. When you have a field over here, it only shows us one. So how do you see multiple related records, right? So we need a portal. So what we're going to do is grab a portal tool. We're going to drag it down. We say show the records through this relationship. There we go. And we say, okay. And we're going to specify the box there. Once again, it's kind of redundant. We could have just as easily dragged it down here. There's no reason we had to do that, okay? So now we go to browse mode. And now you're seeing that record and that record, which represent these two related records here, okay? Now, to make things easier to understand, let's add a third one here. Let's do what was another topic that was easy? We had the boxes. We also had the announcer. Let's say we're going to create an announcer table. So no, just leave it there, Calvin. You're going to have 3 columns. So let's do a new window. You'll need there we go, announcer. So same kind of situation, right? So we have a primary key, but it really needs to have a foreign key, right? Announcer, that's the name, right? Yep. And then we're going to have a foreign key. Don't get cute with me yet. Thank you. Save it for later. So we have the announcer right there. We probably should put our own primary key before that, then the foreign key, right? Slide that one in there. Okay. And go back to browse mode. So what are we going to need to do? Same sort of thing, right? There's our primary key. The announcer is going to be Kyle Williams, right? Let's put that in there. Announcer Kyle Williams. Now, it doesn't yet show up over here for a couple of reasons. One, we don't have a relationship established yet. And two, we would have to somehow we have to get that field right there onto over here. Does that make sense? So we haven't done that. So let's go into field definitions. So file, manage database. And you're going to, now this is where we get into anchor buoy. So Calvin, just move this window down half screen right now. Just move it down half and hold. Hold, perfect. This is the layout we care about we're building for our users to use. This layout is going to be driven by an anchor buoy group, a TOG, a table occurrence group, right? And so what we do is as we build the layout, we determine that we need certain things, we add those capabilities, and as we need to add things, we create new table occurrence groups so it's all contained in a self-contained box. We're not going to link everything together because that's a spider diagram and it really trashes the performance of a FileMaker solution. You need to use anchor buoy, especially if you're watching this video. We want the announcer. So we need somehow to create a new table occurrence group and we need to connect it to games over here. So here's the announcer and it's over here. So now we need to connect it, scroll down a little bit and I'm going to zoom in a little bit as you do this. Hold, slow down, hold. Okay, do it slowly, slow motion. Drag over, okay? Makes sense? So now we have this right here this is our anchor. These are our buoys, right? And this is everything we need here is what we need to support that one specific layout, right? So going backwards, this is the layout we're trying to build. These are for so you folks can visualize what's going on, but this is what I need. This is what drives and supports that specifically. Okay, makes sense? All right, let's go ahead and say okay. So we'll probably only have one announcer, which makes perfect sense. And so let's go ahead and figure out how we're going to do that. So over here, we see, now when you're on this right here, it's going to show you the related items, and we're using anchor buoy, so it's showing us that little group we created. These are the other items, the other table occurrences that we have not connected. So it's showing us there as a kind of a reference, right? But really, at the end of the day, we care about the ones that are directly related. So let's go ahead and put the announcer in here. Do announcer. And we want the announcer right there, which is great. Awesome. And we can just go to browse mode. Okay, browse mode. So we have 102 over here. Okay, and if we put it over here, go ahead and do that, and then click out. Kyle Williams. So, and now we decide that Kyle, we misspelled Kyle Williams' name. Kyle spells his William with 2 S's on the end because he's super special. So Williams, super special, 2 S's on the end of his name. And click out, it updates. So that is the basics of this. Now, what you'll see in terms of common sense, let's go back to field definitions, is that you will see that we're building this right here, and you have this primary key connected to this ID over here. And if you go to fields over here, what you're going to run into, and make it full screen, I guess, if you want for the moment, is that you're going to have probably 100 fields over here. We had a kind of a debate with Nick the other day about how many fields you had in a solution. You know, if you have 900 fields in a solution, you probably misdesigned it. But what you want to do is you want to have things easily grouped together. And so Claris decided in their infinite wisdom to call it primary key. I guess that's fine. Once again, they're not much for training. That's why I do a lot of training. What you want to do is you want to have all the keys put together, these unique items. You want to put them all together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that ID underscore probably game. Okay. And I'm going to say change. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the other tables like this, like boxes, and I say ID game. No, oh yeah, you could do the ID box. Yep. Okay, and we change it, so that makes sense. So then, as you sort, the IDs start to come together. But what I do to be additionally helpful is that when I have a foreign key, I'm going to go to the game, and I'm going to put an underscore and then on it, and an option on the Mac. It's an option F, I think, is a little funky F. Is that click the, yeah. So that's this little weird little F. And that tells me it's a foreign key. And so I know that I have probably a primary key just by looking at this. And then if it has a little F, it's a foreign key. That means that this one, the primary key, always has to be unique, right? We talked about that a little bit, has to be unique. The foreign key can be duplicates all over the place. Duplicate. It's not a problem, okay? But the primary key, and you could put an underscore little P on there if you wanted, but I don't bother. I just need to notate that, you know, there are foreign keys, and that's what those are. Notice that it's not set the serial number. You could always tell over here, the serial number auto enters, and this one here doesn't auto enter at all, right? Pretty interesting. Blair from so for anchor buoy, do you need to have a connection between the original table for items to have relationship? Calvin, you want to take this?
Yeah. So the is a good question, but you'll notice in this we don't each of those original table occurrences are used as the anchor for each of those table groups. So we would take each of these and put them in its own table group. Each of these would be its own anchor, and that's where we would base those layouts on. And then these buoys, we wouldn't base the layout on a buoy. These are secondary table occurrences that we are referencing from the game's table occurrence.
Okay.
And we might.
Yeah, so let me move it down halfway again. Let me restate this again. Calvin's right. Let me just restate it. So, number one, we build a layout. So even if you just get crayons out and a piece of paper, let me just move over here briefly so I wave my hands. So you get crayons out and a piece of paper. Draw a picture of what your screen on your computer needs to look like. Talk to your customer. Maybe you know what it looks like. You're going to draw a picture of it. And if you're in the game and you know that you want boxes, you want announcers, you want the singers that are going to sing whatever song they're going to sing, then you know what goes on the layout, so you start building the layout. And then you build the relationship to support what you need on the layout. That you're not going to build the relationships and then build the layout. That's backwards. Kyle would probably do it that way, just because Kyle is that kind of guy. He would do it just to be challenging. But for real normal humans, right? Not Kyle. And I love Kyle. I think Kyle's fantastic, but he's very technical. And I think Kyle dreams about this shit at night. I've only dreamed about relationships once at night, I think, ever in 30 years. And it was bad because they had little killer jaws and they were trying to kill me, right? So it was bad. But the idea is that you build the layout. The user need drives the layout. The layout is connected to the anchor here. The layout's always connected to an anchor. And then you put the necessary supporting things, however many you need here, to give you the data that you need on the layout. So users drive the layout for usability. The layout is connected to the anchor, and you put buoys on there to support that operation, right? For example, I'm very much a lot of logistician. Logistician is a term for a person that manages logistics. So if you have a vegetation fire, I spent many years as a firefighter. I still talk to these people. If you have a fire, you just don't call 911 and say put out the vegetation fire. If it's out in an hour, it's good. But if it goes on for a week or two or more than a day, the firefighters need logistical support. They need all the items that support them, right? So you would have to support the firefighter. You're going to have some place for them to get food, some place for them to get gasoline. When a firefighter gets hungry, they're going to, I'm done. Let's go to drive-through at McDonald's, man. Awesome, right? That doesn't happen. They have to have fire camps there. They're cooking food for them. They get the food out to them. Maybe they come back, get a little sleep, get some food. So you're building all the supporting items to support that layout. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about all the necessary elements to support this. Now, someone asked about Caucasian joins. There's no such thing as a Caucasian join. There is a Cartesian join. A Cartesian join is an X. And I do it slightly differently. But for the point of FileMaker and certification training, you really need to know what it means. And a Cartesian join is one where, like normally the ID over here matches, so 1001 matches 1001. What if you wanted to say that any record on the left matches any record on the right? Now, you're like, that's really stupid, but there are times where you need that, right? What if I had... I wanted a list of all the boxes that are even in the building, and I wanted to have a complete list of all the boxes in the building. Then I could actually say, right? Calvin, we could do that, right? Build another relationship. So let's go through it. Let's say go over here and give me 20 boxes. So just keep going. I want 20 boxes down here. However you want to do it, okay? But I want 20 because Larry had 22 records, so just keep going. So, you killed me, Calvin. Just do it, and then do there you go, and then just do give me 2 more, and you can unmute yourself if you want. And then go back to the top. We're gonna forcibly fix these here. So I'm gonna say. Just do box 1. Just go up here to go to box 1. Delete that setting. Put a 1 in there, and then hit Command =. That's if you go to records, you can do the same thing. It is a very dangerous command. This is like delete all, and we're not going to put 1 everywhere. We're going to specify. We'll probably just do it with a serial number here. Just click on that, and say initial value. Just put the word box in there. Just put BOX and 1. Okay. And then it'll increment by 1. You hit replace. And so now we have all these down here. So over here, if I want to, I'm going to go back full screen over here. Over here, I want to let's move Kyle up because he doesn't take much room. So we have, these are if you want to label this, these are the boxes, say boxes sold for game. Boxes sold. So that's going to be boxes sold at game. Sold. Okay. Now you say we wanted a list of all the boxes, like all. And so what we're going to do is we're going to, in Calvin's case, he's going to duplicate it and then change it. So he goes, not the boxes available, just all of them, because we're trying to demonstrate the Cartesian joint. So then we need this to be driven. So go ahead and double, what are we going to do? You can double click it if you want. And
yeah, so we'll double click that, and we can select which table occurrence that we want. Neither of these table occurrences are what I'm looking for, so I'm going to select Manage Database. And then here I'm going to, because I want another boxes, I'm going to duplicate this, and I will give it a, say, Cartesian in here, and so that this is identifiable apart from the other boxes. Now I'm going to connect those and give them that Cartesian, say change, and then save that and say OK. And now it's going to be this portal is assigned to the Cartesian. And now I'm going to change this field so that it's referencing the right table occurrence, and go to browse mode, and I should be able to see all this.
So all of them are there. Okay. So understand there's a couple important things here that no one's asked the question yet, but you should be asking the question. Go back to the relationship diagram. If you go back to the relationship diagram, we could take a look. I'm going to go and zoom. So can you bring? Yeah, I'm going to go and zoom down here a little bit. So it's important to understand that when you do a Cartesian, it basically is establishing that any record over here matches any record over here. If you go ahead and just double click this for me, Calvin, the relationship. We actually have box over here specified in game over here. When you have a Cartesian, it doesn't matter at all what the fields are on left or right. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Okay, because it's all it's doing is going, oh, it's a Cartesian, so it doesn't matter really what the fields are or what's in the fields. It's always going to connect. Always 100% of the time without fail going to connect. Now, I think there's a better way of doing this a little bit, but for the point of keeping it simple today, I think I like this. It's very simple, but understand that the field that was selected here, and the field selected here, doesn't matter. Once you put an X in here, it just means they all connect. Okay, that's item number one. The other item number two that'll screw people up is that Calvin kind of whizzed this. Go ahead and close that, and go ahead and say OK on the dialog. Let's go back over here. Is that go to layout mode. As a general rule, if you're watching this live stream and you're kind of semi-new developer, whatever relationship you have driving right here, you should, unless you know better, should have the same relationship driving the field right here, right? And of course, Kyle's going, well, what about this and what about this? Well, we're not talking to Kyle, right? This is about basics, right? And so what happens is people will change the relationship here or change this one here. They won't change this, so that it doesn't behave the way they think it should behave, right? And so, yeah. So, I mean, in fact, change it to back to the way it was initially, right? Go in.
Yeah, so if we change this to the wrong relationship, so we are looking at the portal is showing us all boxes, but we have the box number from this portal displayed, or that relationship displayed. Now we're going to see the first record repeated over and over. So let me go ahead and enable scrolling, so we can scroll through that and just see it's all the same record.
Yeah. So it's very important to understand that until you get farther along, make sure that the field matches the portal and the relationship. Now, there are times when you can do more, better, crazy things, but I'm not. Today is the basics for that today, right? So it makes sense what we're talking about. So if you see that, you've got to check. If you're going to change this relationship, you got to change the relationship here too. So very important. And Kyle made a very, very great point. We talked briefly about it yesterday, but you remember I said that you build a layout to service what the users need, and the layout is driven from an anchor, and we only connect to the anchor the minimum necessary buoys, right? We don't go into manage relationships and then go to manage relationships, Calvin. Yeah, and we don't just connect everything in here, right? Because the more you connect in here, the more FileMaker has to process. FileMaker, in order for it to process this layout right here, do me a split again, give me half and half. For it to display this screen right here, it has to go over here and process and think about each one of these. Oh, related record process, each one related record, each one process, each one related record process. It does that really fast. So what if you have 10 million records on a server, and that server is 1,000 miles away, which will slow things down, and then you have 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 table connections over here. It's going to go zzz, 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 and it's going to do it 100 times. Zzz, 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 zzz. Then it displays it. So it has to think about all this first, then display it in that order. And so that's what you have to understand. So that's why you don't just load this up and make it as fast as possible, because it has to process it, right? That's why we don't connect everything else together into one spider diagram. So we're talking about anchor buoy. This is a performance issue. It's also a simplicity issue, because if we only have these three, right? Say we have 50 or 80 tables, but we're only connected these three. Let's go ahead and close this and go back to the layout. If you just drag a field on here, it limits what your choices are. That's also a really great thing. Check it out. So click on that. Now, scroll up here at the top. Don't move. Everyone freeze for a second. So this is the base table that drives the layout. Then we have connected these three here, okay? Now, you could have 50 tables, 80 tables, 100 tables. They would all be listed down here. And if you connected all of them, then you'd have this giant list that you'd have to scroll through. But instead, we only see the ones in our anchor buoy right there. Our table occurrence group.
Hey, I just wanted to point out that if you have, right now we just have children, but if you include grandchildren and great-grandchildren, the more tables occurrences the anchor has to look through to get its data, the slower your database is going to become.
That is a correct statement. So we haven't really talked about that, but if we go to define relationships, we can briefly explain that. If we actually had a reason to then connect another item over here and connect it like that, and then this one was connected to something like this over here, right? And it doesn't really matter what they are. There would be a business process for this, right? And so then you end up doing this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I have engineers who won't let their customers go past about about 3 or 4 of these. So if the customer starts wanting to do this many more, they have to come up with a different way of doing it, because the performance penalty here is severe when you start going past out here. It's like I have people with 7 or 8, and then they call me to complain that FileMaker is slow. I said, well, yeah, if you build incorrectly, logically it makes sense, but there is physics involved, and electrons are physics, and the more that you do, the more electrons you're forcing to have a process. It has to think about it. It gets really, it can be very deep. So remember, for it to display the layout, it has to think about all this, right? For it to display, before it could ever display that layout, it has to process all these permutations of what it needs. So very, very, very important. Kyle, any other things you would throw in here real quick?
Well, there's the more advanced topic of using global fields for your primary keys, or to relate to the other tables.
Well,
so that way you don't have to go to great-grandchildren. You can just have a global field that drives the foreign key in your anchor, and then you can see the related data in that buoy without having it be, a great-great-great-grandchild. You can have it just be a child, and it's going to be much faster, and you can turn the relationship on and off by just populating that global field. So it's just a trick to make it a little bit faster.
Yeah. For us to explore that, you just said a bunch, and if people are brand new, their little brains
it's a little more advanced.
Well, it's you can't demonstrate it in 30 seconds. So yeah,
right.
It's one of those sort of things. So on the basic topic here, question from anyone. Canberra, Blair. Blair, you've been asking questions? Blair says, when you rename them, the relationship within the field definition only uses the original table, not the others. I'm not quite sure what that was. Calvin, do you see that? It's about 4 up on Discord.
Yeah, so Blair asked, when you rename them, the relationship within the field definitions only uses the original table, not the others. I think what Blair's talking about is, would it be this over here? I think I know. I'm trying to remember exactly where this is, but there's
I
something.
think it was referring to the context of a definition and like for a calculation field.
Okay, yeah.
You
So
have
if
a
we
calculation
create
field,
a
it
new
comes-
calculation, and make this a calculation field, it defaults to the first table occurrence that was created for this. So if we go to FM starting point, sometimes that doesn't. It defaults to a child. So if we want to see that, if we go to bring this over on screen, if we go to manage database and go to, let's try accounts and say new calculation, we'll call this calc, Command L for calculation, create, and for accounts, you'll see it defaults to the primary table occurrence. Let's try that with context. And I'll say don't save, so calc again, and Command L, create, and contacts is the same. Let's try staff. I think staff isn't. I'll say don't save. Once again, calc and Command L, create. And so here we'll see that the first table occurrence that was created for staff is assigned to accounts as a grandchild table occurrence. So if you create a calculation, you might want to change it to the T17, the main table group, before you write that calculation.
Yeah, that was covered. We didn't get into it super deep, but that was Kevin Frank talked about this. It's called primogeniture, I think was a term that he used for it, but it had to do with FileMaker defaulting to the first one created. Once again, I think in the scheme of things in the world, if you're a brand new developer, none of this has anything to do with you. The people that worry about this kind of stuff are people who've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years, and they're, bored and they want something to look at. But yeah, mostly if you can get it to work, it doesn't matter if you had to go down that list. The idea is that when you do a calc, it defaults to the correct one at the top was what they're trying to do. But that means that you could look into the future and define everything you need correctly. And a lot of times a solution like this is built organically. You build it, and then someone sees it and they go, oh, can you share that with me, right? It's this whole thing about the progression of learning. If you're over here in the progression of learning right here, you're just trying to get the thing to work, and you don't care even really what the name of the TOs are. You just want it to work. And then someone sees it, and they're like, oh my God, this is so great, can you share it? So you put it on a server and you share it with someone. And then before long, the solution starts to expand and grow. They want additional things, and you have this organically evolving development of the solution. And it's all being driven by people's needs, wishes, and wants, and to make their lives better. And so as you progress here, you get along here, and so once you're a senior developer, probably 7-8 years of experience, and you're certified, lots of other skills, then you kind of worry about little esoteric things like that. The reality is that I wouldn't stress about it too much. But when you are defining a calculation, you have to define the context of the calculation, how you want to evaluate, if that makes sense. So cool. Martin from Canada, welcome as well. Other questions from people? Other questions? Everyone here is somewhere between here and up here above Senior Ninja. Josh Ormond is about as high as it goes up the food chain in terms of skill set, kind of like some of my guys, Garrett and Calvin, things like that. Calvin's in that group, Kyle probably as well. But yeah, the people who've been through the process have learned a ton, got certified. It's a lot. But today's conversation is just kind of in here and in between, right? That's the basics of this. You have to fundamentally understand what that looks like, right? And then Nick talks about this a lot. He talks about things like, for example, Calvin, can you put the box back over here, do your little split ski thing again? So put the box over here. And so say that you wanted to actually connect more than one. You could actually put a carriage return, or it's on the child side, right? You could put let me see, where's the box at, right? So you could actually, it gets into the issues where you put, if you go into the foreign key, you say you put 1002 in there, and then you did a carriage return, a shift return. You put a shift, and then you put 1003 and 1004. This would allow this record to actually cross-connect to multiple other records over here, right? There's all sorts of funky things that you can do that get really interesting, right? So, lots of design, lots of thoughts, lots of context. And whenever you see Nick or someone doing advanced kind of work, then you get into a situation where they're building upon this knowledge that you have. They're building upon you learning this. So that's why some of these topics seem advanced. It's because these people who are presenting this, the Kyles and the Calvins and the Nicks and whatnot, they've already learned this. So we try to kind of come back and do basics once in a while.
No, I just wanted to point out here, though, if you see, we've got all those games that we created, and each of them has the box 5 because we have that list of IDs for box 5 in that child in the foreign key field.
So that's it for today. Appreciate it. If you have comments, questions, you want to have topics, submit a topic idea for the live stream, please send me an email to support@RC Consulting. Well, I appreciate everyone. We'll catch you tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time. See ya.
Just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap. Stands in, throws it left for Amendola. Reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.